All right, welcome everybody to the HVAO podcast. Today we have Matt Malkin, United States Marine Crypto Linguist, who is now part of Harvard College. He's a sophomore, and he's an active member in the Harvard undergraduate veteran organization. So, Matt, how are you?
Yeah. Hey, thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here, Matt.
Yeah.
Now, you have an amazing story being in the Marine Corps. So I can't wait to talk about it. So, all right, Matt. So let's start with the basics, man. So, where are you from?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, my whole life growing up. So this side of the country is very new to me.
Yeah, but how's the weather? Like, have you gotten used to it yet or not?
I think, unfortunately, I have. I miss hating the cold, and now I've kind of learned to accept it, and kind of curious how that has changed me in other ways. You know, I might start getting a Boston accent pretty soon here as well.
Nice for sure. Where's the what is the saying? Park the car by the bar.
Yeah. By the car, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're for our viewers, you are now living on campus, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Gotcha. So, you've been out of the Marine Corps for how long?
Coming up on 2 years now. Yeah. So I got out in summer of 2022. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So, I mean, I like to think that anybody that's a Marine it has like a story, a reason, or any a driving force to become a Marine, right? So, do you have anything like that, or was did the recruiter just approach at the right time and just landed the contract, or how did that go?
Yeah, no, I definitely do have a story. Unfortunately, it might not be the most beautiful story that in it, but I've been asked that question a few times in my life, and the first few responses that, I wanted to be a patriot, serve my country. But over time, as I've really started to think about it, I think ultimately what led me to join was Hollywood. So growing up with all the awesome movies, seeing service members going on deployments, having a big impact on society, their struggles they face, and how much Hollywood glorifies it. Because I didn't grow up with a military background family. No one in my family had joined. In fact, they were all kind of a little nervous at first, and I knew that too. So I kind of kept that hushed up a little bit. I called myself a closet service member. I didn't really feel like I could talk to anybody about it. But after a while, when it came time to sign that dotted line, I just started telling people, and they came around to it.
Nice. Do you have a favorite movie that anything that like specifically drives you, or?
Yeah. So I have a military one and I have a personal one. So the personal one is No Country for Old Men.
Oh, great.
Because I believe, yeah, I love it. Because I believe it discusses a topic that we don't talk about enough. And my military one, which I think honestly came out while I was in the military, I don't think it was before, was Fury. And I feel like that movie...
The tank movie, right?
Yes, yeah. I feel like it really captures the diverse backgrounds of service members during it, and I don't think that's something that we talk about too much in the military, about how you just get the most random people, rich, poor, as we say in the Marines, all different shades of green, joining for whatever reason, good reasons, bad reasons. And you just learned how to cooperate and work with them.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's hard to describe that to somebody who didn't serve, that your best friend was your buddy from Dominican Republic, and then his best friend was a kid from Texas.
Yeah.
And the barracks parties were pretty crazy. Like, the music was just so eclectic.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're absolutely right. It's hard to wrap that that concept into in a way that somebody can understand it, somebody that didn't serve. But I got to check out Fury. It's on Netflix, I believe. So
highly recommend.
Yeah. All right. Very well. Very well. So, so now you're graduating high school and join the Marine Corps. What was that process like for you? Did you, as a crypto linguist, that's a very specific MOS, right? Did you go in there with a contract? Did you get lucky with an open contract, or how did that work out for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because looking back on it, hindsight, it was sort of a delicate situation to be in as applying to the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps loves open contracts. They love, just getting people to join and then putting them towards the needs of the Marine Corps. And that was absolutely not what I wanted to do. So when I first started talking to recruiters, I actually was talking to both the Marine Corps and the Army recruiters because I wasn't exactly sure. My first impression of the Marine Corps was that they were a bunch of dumb jarheads. There's definitely some validity to that, but they are now my dumb jarheads, and I take a lot of pride in being part of it. But no, the Marine Corps teaches something that I believe you truly can't get anywhere else. And so, when I went to the Army recruiter, I told them I want to be a linguist. And so they were like, great, we'll give you a $50,000 a signing bonus, just sign this dot right here. And it was very smooth, whatnot. And I was like, that sounds good, but let me go see what the Marines have to say. And went to the Marine Corps recruiter, and he's like, I'm good on my quotas this month. And now I know this was a tactic, everything he was telling me, but he was like, I'm good on my quota this month. Why do I want you? What do you have? And he's like, all right, give me a pitch why you would be an asset to the Marine Corps, and why do you even want to join the Marine Corps? And that really spoke to me. The recruiter and other Marines I talked to really discussed what it meant to be a Marine, honor, courage, commitment. And so ultimately I decided that what I would learn in the Marine Corps was worth more than $50,000. I can't put a price tag on it, but it's at least greater than. But yeah, specifically becoming a linguist, I attribute that to growing up in Tucson, Arizona. I had a lot of friends who were, first, second, or third gen Hispanic immigrants, mostly from Mexico, whose parents or grandparents spoke either mostly in Spanish or only in Spanish. And I felt like it was such a wasted opportunity to hear their story if I didn't know Spanish. So throughout high school, I tried to study as much Spanish as possible. I was not the best student, but I definitely was able to learn some things. And so that taught me that, you can really learn a lot about someone when you know their language. And so I felt that could be an asset that I could provide to the Marine Corps, and saying, hey, the Marine Corps is in the Middle East. At the time it was Iraq and Afghanistan. We're slowly pulling out of Iraq at that time, but definitely prominent in Afghanistan, especially in the Southwest. And so I thought, hey, I would love to find some solutions in order to find a middle ground. And so I went to the recruiter, said, hey, I want to be a translator. And he said, great, you have to pass this test. They sent me to a facility, took the test, passed it. And then I was able to get that contract and on my way to boot camp.
That's awesome. So do you speak a little Spanish now or?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I put on my resume basic Spanish, or like fundamental Spanish. I believe I could truly pick it up if the need ever arose. A private equity firm is like, hey, we want to do a deal in South America. I'd be like, great, give me a dictionary, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, man. I find it the immersion is definitely what worked for me learning English. When there's no other way other than to speak the language, then you'll figure it out. So so you go through boot camp, no problems, and then you go through. I guess you guys go through MCT, right? Like the the discount infantry training battalion. Yeah. Well, I never heard of that. I usually hear the wish version of SOI. So You go through MCT, you go to your MOS school. Now tell us about this MOS school.
Yeah. So, for most all enlisted service members, this is probably the same case for officers and commissioning service members as well. You kind of have this perception of the military, and then you join and you find out it's absolutely not what you thought it was. And so after all the basic training, they sent me to a language school, which my first school was 1.5 years and then follow on 7 months. So my first part of the contract was studying and just school. Yeah, from about 8 to 4, 5 days a week, just studying Pashto, learning as many new words as possible, day in, day out for 1.5 years, and then doing a follow-on cryptology school, which is using the language that we just learned and applying it to a cryptologic setting. So learning how to understand local dialects, specific dialects, and translating those colloquial terms in a digestible manner to your respective customers.
So you're using context clues in order to decipher the different types of I guess slang that you may encounter during a translation, that you're able to decipher what that means and then articulate it into intelligence. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It can get really tricky too, because some of these local dialects may use phrases or sayings that don't really make any sense in English and are difficult to translate, or they might be using a very regionally specific term that may also be similar to another term or another phrase. And so it's figuring out what is actually meant in that scenario, and applying that to the best of your ability in your packages to your customers.
Yeah, I think one example that always comes to mind whenever I'm trying to explain that particular aspect of language to other people is growing up, I watched cartoons or whatever. One of the jokes was, why 6 afraid of 7, right? So the show that I watched was specifically translated word by word. So like that never made sense to me. I thought it was some sort of humor that I didn't have a clue about, right? Like, ¿por qué tiene miedo el 6 del 7, right?
Yeah.
So eventually when I got to the US and I heard it, I'm like, oh, I get it. It's a play on words. So I imagine the difficulty behind it, that you hear some sort of phrase and you have no idea what it means unless you put it into context with like the history or like I said, the root of the word or whatever. So how difficult was that on a day-to-day basis for you?
I mean, similar to other jobs, some days are better than others, right? Some days are really quiet, and other days you kind of have to stay in the office a little longer because either nothing's making sense or something's popping off. And so, after getting out of the schoolhouse and actually getting to the fleet, my first assignment was supporting Task Force Southwest. That was a small Marine Corps unit in Southwest Afghanistan, specifically the Helmand province. And so it was mostly quiet around that time. We weren't really supporting a lot of infantry missions. It was mostly spec ops, and we were kind of like the intelligence shop in the background. They had a lot of assets and availability from either JSOC or other intelligence organizations. We were just kind of, they need an extra hand on something or a different perspective. So it was a great way to, really apply and learn the language. But when things got really intense was as the Marine Corps and, the rest of the United States military decided to pull out of Afghanistan, that's when the test really started to happen.
Gotcha. So can you tell us a little bit about your involvement in that operation?
Yeah. So I was working Task Force Southwest. That died down. Marines pulled out. I didn't think I was ever going to visit Pashto again. my shop started to focus on EUCOM, European Command. I imagine the audience could figure out what was of interest there. And that was some good training. It was kind of quiet for my shop as well. So we were doing a lot of mundane administration tasks all the time and exercises as much as we could, which were mostly in-house, field work, but we had the nicer tents. So we did that for about a year until the presidential administration, the Biden administration, decided to completely withdraw from Afghanistan. That was stated in August of 2021, and then really enacted in September. We saw that things were starting to look really crazy. And so it became pretty quickly known that the Marine Corps was going to have to step in with its role in those sort of situations. And so it was kind of by happenstance that the Marine Corps unit that responded was associated with my shop. So the unit that initially responded was the 24th MEU, and my shop was directly supporting them in any additional intelligence needs that they needed. At the time, my job was, 8 to 4 or 8 to 5. But then as soon as the withdrawal really started to pop up, then we started doing 24-hour operations, supporting them in any needs. So we had just come off of an exercise, which was 24-hour operations. So we were a little tired, but excited to provide help and support as much as possible. And I fortunately was given the opportunity to be a senior Pashto linguist, which completely blew my mind at the time. I had just picking up sergeant. I, in my opinion, had very little experience working the Afghan missions, and essentially it was, you're it. You're the best we got. And so taking in that position, I was given a team of 8 Marines of 2 different languages, Pashto, and we had some Dari specialists as well, and some other intelligence specialties as well that I wasn't directly in charge of. And so we provided oversight of language translation for force protection and indications and warnings to specifically the Marine Corps unit that was there. But we also had a wonderful opportunity to support a JSOC unit that was out there as well. And at the end of it, I could say my Marines and I did the best we could, and I'm very proud of the work we did.
That's awesome. That's a historic moment for sure, to be part of that. But that's awesome. So the drawdown, the pullout, whatever you want to call it, happens. What happens with your shop? Do you guys continue to do exercises, or the operational tempo changes, or what happens?
Yeah, that's something that I really appreciate about the Marine Corps is the consistent adaptability and flexibility. So even though we just did a major Afghan mission, after that we shift our focus on other missions that our shop can support. So the EUCOM was a big one with the shortly after the invasion of Ukraine. And some other support to, whether MEUs or Marine Corps units or other branches around the world, any opportunity we were given. So even though I specialize in Afghan Pashto, I also, as well as my other Pashto peers or Pashto linguist peers, have capabilities in communications intelligence analytics, equipment intelligence analytics. So we're constantly learning new skills and new traits to provide any intelligence that is needed, or also attempting to predict future intelligence that may be needed.
Right. At what point in your career does this happen? Are you picked up sergeant, so I imagine that you were either 3-4 years in of your contract?
I just about hit 4 years. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you were on your way out, right? Like you were transitioning out in your last year, right? Like
yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, one of the things that I've always wondered with these MOSs that are highly sought after. So you had this very difficult, very specific MOS. What was life like as far as like being a Marine, right? Like, so you go to work, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, and do you get to, you have to do like Marine Corps stuff still, like the like field day, you live in barracks, you get any special treatment, do you guys get the nice hotels when you guys go to
filled up? Yeah. Yeah, I think it is one of those jobs that does receive the most amount of heat in bowling from the rest of the Marine Corps. It was a truly strange experience, and I can say not the one I signed up for initially, but definitely appreciated while I was in. So most of the whether cryptologic linguists or other intelligence analysts, most of their job is sort of a desk job, and there's some other capabilities as well. Let me re-preface that. Most of those individuals in my shop were a desk job. There are other shops as well that provide unique Marine Corps capabilities. And so what that sort of looks like is 8 to 5, show up in the office, maybe do some administrative work right off the bat, focus on intelligence packages that are supporting whatever mission, whatever operation we're working on right now, or seeking other missions operations, right? Maybe you just finished one, the Afghan withdrawal, that's done, but we can still support EUCOM, other aspects like that. And it's just kind of the same thing day in, day out, but with that, because our job is so steady, we're not doing these major field exercises all the time. We were tasked out for administrative work quite frequently. Go watch the Humvees on Monday, and fill out this paperwork or whatnot. So I really enjoyed it. It's not the job that all Marines sign up for, and that's something that I fortunately was able to convey to my battalion sergeant major and battalion commander upon leaving. Is they're like, hey, give us a reflection of your experience here. Is that not all Marines sign up for a desk job, and some Marines do want to be more in the field, and finding how to see to it that Marines can do the job that they would be the most qualified for. But it's still at the end of the day, and you're probably very familiar with this, it's the needs of the Marine Corps.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever saw a linguist out in deployment. Usually we had the Terps.
Yeah.
And, the linguists were with the Intel shop back at the COC or whatever. But I mean, like, those guys were just always working. Like, so you can't really say that it was a desk job when the guys live at the COC, right? Like, it's they're doing their job. So, but anyway, so you're now transitioning out of the Marine Corps. You had an exceptional job. You did your enlistment. You're now transitioning out. Now, for those who don't know, at around 6 months, I think the career planner starts reaching out to you, and it's around either like, hey, listen, you should think about commissioning. You should think about going into becoming a warrant officer or commission, or re-enlist, stay in, and rock out for 20 years. So you chose a different path. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So interesting enough, that was the path that I wound up choosing was the path that I kind of set for myself when I was 16 years old. When I was really starting to think about joining the military and then eventually the Marine Corps, it was to do one contract and then to go to college. So initially it was enlistment, college, and then commission. These days, it's looking like there's a lot more money you can make in the civilian side of things than you can in the military. And I think we're also in a strange position right now geopolitically. That's not of the most interest to me. So that's why the civilian sides of things are calling me. But yeah, I planned on doing one contract. I was very fortunate in that contract. I had a wonderful career. I would have loved to have deployed. I would have loved to have worked with Afghans more, whether refugees or in country. But I still feel like I was able to do some support to, units overseas as well as the nation as a whole. And I felt very comfortable leaving. So the plan was to go to college. So that's what I started to do. But very fortunately, I had people in my life who told me that there are opportunities in getting into university. And, I started telling people, oh, I plan to go to college. And I had people start to tell me about programs that help service members transition out of the military into schools. Two of these big programs, there might be a few more, is Service to School and the Warrior Scholar program. And they're a little different in their nature. Warrior Scholar project focuses more on educating service members to succeed in school. Service to School is more helping service members transition via, applications. How do you present yourself? Yada, yada, yada. So because I became aware of that, I also became aware of how competitive I was in this application process with my background. And, even though I didn't do the best in high school, it wasn't completely terrible. And I did have some opportunities that I really started to apply to a lot more difficult schools, really starting to open up. Okay, what are my opportunities? What can I potentially do?
What was your timeline? I'm sorry. What was your timeline? So you were transitioning out. Is that when you started to apply to schools, or was it a couple of years prior, or what was that like? Yeah.
So with the enlisted side of things, transitioning out, it's a pretty long period. Honestly, you said 6 months earlier, but I would even say that they really start to talk to you about a year and a half before, and they say, all right, what are you thinking? You don't have to really sign anything then, but it's just, what are you thinking? And then you do a lot of these various steps. So one of them is a transition class that you have to take, TRS, transition readiness. And then you have to do, a psych eval, physical eval, all that. And that really starts to hype up in the last 6 months. And so I got out in the summer, and my plan was to attend school in the fall. In order to do that, my applications were due in, the winter, right before the new year or a little after it. And so actually, I had just gotten started on a lot of my applications right before the Afghan embassy evacuation. And so that kind of put a little pause in the whole process. But I picked that back up, filled them all out, sent them out. And I was very fortunate to get the responses that I did. Ultimately, I chose Harvard. And it was really cool that I was aware that was an opportunity that I could do.
Now, was Harvard your number one choice? Did you have a number one choice, or was it just like, hey, listen, I am going to apply to all the Ivy Leagues, the local colleges, and see what happens? Or did you have a trajectory?
Yeah. So I didn't apply to all the Ivy Leagues. I was very into finance, very into business. And so I looked at schools based on that, Harvard ranking pretty high up there. And so that was kind of the focus, but yeah, I didn't do all the Ivies, but I would honestly, I can't say it's my number one, because ultimately I chose Harvard and I got into both schools. One of the schools that I was looking forward to the most was actually UT Austin. I heard a lot of great things that was going on, both at the university and within the city. I was really excited to get out of the service and finally use the VA loan, buy a house, live in it, maybe buy a larger house, rent out some rooms, or, a duplex, and which is a luxury I currently cannot afford, living in Cambridge, pretty close to Boston. But being that I wanted to get into finance and specifically private equity, getting into Harvard is one of those schools that, really asks yourself, what do you prioritize? And I prioritized my career over buying a house in that situation.
Yeah, that's a smart choice on your part. Like a little bit of an off-topic question, but finance, right? What made you decide for finance? I like to believe as a staff NCO that it was you doing your MCI, see if they still have them. Your personal finance MCI was what helped you. But yeah, why finance?
Yeah, those were great classes. That was that was a real throwback. Yeah, I mean, choosing the job I did in the Marine Corps was very focused on a strategic position. I was very curious to look at things from the big picture. I wanted to work with the generals. I wanted to see movements on the board. I was interested in geopolitical concerns. This event happened there. What does that mean to the neighboring countries? Why is the United States interested in something going on across the world? That was all very interesting to me. And so sort of translating the military aspect into civilian terms, the equivalent, in my opinion, is big business, whether national or international. And a great segue in getting into that and understanding basic functions of larger companies is, in my opinion, finance. So I looked into finance a lot, but ultimately it came down to what I call like the big three, especially at Harvard. Other schools probably focus on other things. But that being investment banking, private equity, and venture capital. So with venture capital, the model seemed too similar to gambling. I had studied gambling a little bit to see if there was any edge in casinos. I've yet to find any. If you know of any, I'd love to hear it. I'd always love to make a couple bucks on the side, but it really does seem the house always wins. And that's my concern with venture capital, is that there isn't really an edge that you can get on, in the sense that most venture capital's firms model is to invest in 10 companies and to bet that only, or at least one, is gonna, blow up. And that sounds way too stressful to me. It doesn't sound like a best practice in finance. And so another one, investment banking, you're concerned with public companies, much larger companies. They seem to be too influenced by what's going on in the news or in media, and which drastically can affect stock prices at some time. And I don't believe that that's a healthy business practice. I don't think that's a very legitimate business practice in which your efforts directly influence the company versus how it would in private equity. And so that's why I ultimately am pursuing a career in private equity, because it's a model that I can truly agree with. And I believe it'll be my segue getting into larger companies.
I will tell you a story about when I deployed. I deployed with a professional gambler.
I might need to take some notes.
It was wild. When we were in Afghanistan, he would have Skype calls at the time of Skype with his coach, and he was a poker player, but he taught us how to play blackjack, poker, and it's all about odds. And his what do you call it? His thing about it was that he was good at poker because you're not playing the house, you're playing other players. So, he was very clear on you will always lose. Maybe with blackjack, if you can count cards or you're a managed player, maybe you have like a 61% chance, and it's all relative to skill, and you'll get caught eventually and get asked to leave. So it's not worth it. Well, there you go, that thing again. But anyway, so you're interested in finance, you pick Harvard. Now, you apply, you get in, and you pick up and you get out of the Marine Corps. Do you spend some time at home and then go right into school, or how does that work out logistically?
Yeah, I still kind of had like the whole military mentality of going from one unit to another, going, from a
PCS.
Schoolhouse to, the fleet, whatnot. So I only took a month off. And, after about 2 weeks, I still had that nervous itch of going and doing something, in this case, it was attending school. So I got out in late July of 2022 and started school in August. And, it was nice seeing family and seeing friends, sort of trying to wind down from the military tempo, the Marine tempo of constantly on the go, getting ready, hurry up and wait. And then, preparing for school, but I didn't really do too much to prepare for school. Honestly, I did kind of the basic things and figured that it was college. You just kind of wing it. And so when I needed to show up, I showed up on campus at right time, right place, right? 15 minutes early, of course.
Oh.
Which I didn't get the memo that college students show up 15 minutes late. But I'm working on it still. And from there on, just showing up to classes on time, doing the work. And you kind of viewed it as another schoolhouse at first.
Gotcha. Where were you out of in the Marine Corps? Were you out of Pendleton, Lejeune, or any other base in the area?
Yeah. So I trained first at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California. Gorgeous campus. In some ways, way prettier than Harvard.
Yeah.
Have you been?
No, I've seen I had a class with a Spanish linguist, crypto.
Oh, nice.
Crypto linguist, and he just showed me pictures, and it looked incredible. So we never want to leave.
Yeah, Big Sur, California is there. You got Pebble Beach, Carmel by the Sea. That was kind of my initial college experience, and it was gorgeous.
Sure.
So I spent about a year and a half there. My follow-on school was at Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas. So middle of nowhere, West Texas. Great time. That was spent some time with the Texans, got to know the area. It is true what they say. Everything is bigger in Texas. And you just, as soon as you step foot in West Texas, you notice it. I don't know exactly how to describe it. If the audience doesn't know what I mean, go visit West Texas and you'll figure it out. And then after that, I was stationed in Camp Lejeune, attached to 2nd Radio Battalion.
Gotcha. Oh man, so you were nowhere near home and really nowhere near campus. So I guess you didn't have a chance to visit campus prior to applying, right?
Yeah, I mean they have an event. It's called Visitas. It's a spoof on Harvard's motto, Veritas. I don't know. I didn't feel like a traditional college student. I'm not a traditional college student, and so I was like, I don't need to go to that. It's college. You just show up. Why do I need to visit campus, and what am I gonna do by visiting campus? So I don't really regret not going, but it is definitely an option for service members who just got into Harvard, and it's a good opportunity to see the campus if you're interested in it.
And is that through Harvard, or is that through the military service?
No, yeah, it's through Harvard. They open it to all of their students. I mean, for traditional college students, it's a crazy time. I mean, especially getting into Harvard is absolutely insane. I probably would have freaked out a lot more about it had I been younger, but just coming off of the Afghan mission, I was kind of unfazed by anything in life. But yeah, it's just, to kind of calm your nerves a little bit, familiarize yourself with the campus. It's a great opportunity to see what life's like as a student here. And you can also, as a service member, meet other service members.
Gotcha. All right. So you show up to campus with a sea bag and a laptop, basically. So you're now 2 years in. What's your experience been like? Using your GI Bill and, being a little bit older than the average freshman.
Yeah. a quick correction there: 2 sea bags and and a coyote a deployment bag,
Nice.
which has been phenomenal. Yeah, been very great. No, yeah, I had that mentality. This is another not duty station. This is another schoolhouse, right? It's going to be longer. It's going to be one of the longest ones, 4 years. But we'll get it done. I'm going to keep my mind focused on the mission of pursuing private equity, and just studying finance and getting all those numbers right. But sort of quickly, I discovered that I don't have any senior NCOs or officers hounding on me. I don't have any products that I need to get out in a time. I'm kind of on my own, and this is kind of for me. And I think that's something that a lot of transitioning service members might struggle with or consider. Whether going to college, university, or whatever career or field that they intend to pursue. And I don't think that's unique to enlisted as well. And so it was kind of figuring out, okay, this is for me. What does that mean? And working out a schedule, interacting with the students, not just being military focused or military oriented.
Yeah, no, like being a staff NCO myself, it was very easy to just get told what to do, where to be, what time to show up, for sure. It's when you're in a situation like you're in, right, that you're doing this for yourself. So whether it's your PT or going to school or whatever other task, you're doing it for yourself. So, but you've been successful so far, right? 2 years in. Now, you were a little bit, you were in school, you were in a academic setting for the beginning of your career in the military, but then you transitioned out, right? So how hard was it going back into academia from in the Marine Corps, from being in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so I don't think I had the best mindset transitioning out, because I had quite a few friends who were also linguists. They had done the rigorous studying, whether with the language or cryptology, who went into college afterwards to whatever extent, they transferred or first year, some grad school. And I kept hearing it's so easy, military life is so much more difficult. Our expectations, the responsibilities we have, which to some degree is true. But something I did not prepare for, that I honestly forgot, but I knew when I was 18, is that Harvard is a difficult school. It's difficult not only to get into, but also difficult to perform here. And that's something that I had to adjust to, forming those consistent study habits, maintaining a schedule, and also a new concept to me, maybe to you as well, was that of office hours, was hanging out with your professor. I'm like, why do they want to hang out with me?
Yep.
And teach me,
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It takes some time for sure, but it's definitely doable. So I think that it's just like anything, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it. So I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to that. So you're involved with HUVO, right?
Yeah.
You're an active member. What is your role there?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a Gen Pop. I'm a basic member. We have quite a few positions that an individual can pick up. It's all election based, so you get voted in by the other HUVO members. You automatically become a HUVO member by being a veteran. And something interesting with that about Harvard is that there's a lot of veterans from other nations, specifically Israel, which is an interesting topic at this time. And so you just vote in a member and they can pick up the position. I have yet to run for one. We'll see if that's something of interest to me in the future. Right now it's not. But I am very involved, not only in HUVO for the veterans within Harvard, but also veterans applying. I try to dedicate my time as much as other veterans need in their application process, whether that be specifically to Harvard or other universities. And I also focus that time on service members that I know, and there are service members that I worked with and I can swear by, I can vouch for. And I know that by them attending one of these prominent schools, that they're just going to become incredible citizens and do amazing things, and also attempt to inspire them to apply themselves more. So I've worked with quite a few of my old friends in their applications, and I know quite a few of them are doing very well, and I continue to do so. Right now, I'm working with 3 Marine Corps veterans on their college applications as well.
Gotcha. And this is something you're doing through Hoover, or is it something that you're doing for yourself?
Yeah, this is all done on my own time. People can definitely reach out to me through Huvo, or they can go to Huvo and reach out to the other members involved in that as well. I've kind of yet to have anybody reach out to me directly through Huvo. I try to reach out to the old service members I know, or friends of theirs, and attempt to inspire them. Or anytime someone tells me college, I say, great, let's go on a phone call, walk me through what you're interested in, what your plans are, and I'll expose you to what I was exposed to, and also have learned being here on what opportunities you will have, being, not only just a veteran, but also based on what you did.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of opportunities, and at Harvard, what is it like to be around campus right now as a veteran?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's kind of 2 aspects with that. Number one, just what is it like being a veteran on college campus? I can only comment, for Harvard specifically, it kind of varies per university. And number 2, with current tensions, I'll specifically state that of the conflict in Israel, but also, conflict in Ukraine. How does that feel being a veteran? So for the first one, just being a veteran on campus, it was very difficult for me first starting out. And I know some other veterans struggle with that as well. I had a buddy of mine tell me that his first year, he just kind of felt the urge to fight everybody around him. And I don't think you really understand what that means unless you're a veteran. And that can be very off-putting to civilians, but kind of sort of what that means is that you feel like you're in a hostile environment. And as a civilian, you might ask yourself why, but you're now you're in peace, now you're not in the military, you're not deployed. But this environment specifically for Harvard College, probably for Harvard University all around, can be very foreign for a lot of service members. I put it as a lot of the traditional students here come from elite backgrounds and are very well educated and, do very well academically in these scenarios. They're familiar with the Ivy Leagues already. And that's not the case for a lot of service members. So that can be very tough at first. But most service members that I know can get out of that mindset, some quicker than others, right? But for me specifically, it was coming to terms and accepting that I'm here and I belong here. And that, quite honestly, that's something I continue to struggle with. Some days walking around Harvard campus, I ask myself, when is this dream going to end? I'm still shocked. It's that school you hear about growing up, and then for some reason I belong here. That's crazy. I just signed a paper that put me in the Marine Corps, did what they told me to do, and Harvard's like, wow, that's cool. We'd love to have you. And I'm like, that's crazy.
For sure, man. So let's talk a little bit about that. Because I think that's a very, I wouldn't say it's a unique experience, but it's an experience that a lot of veterans have while they transition out and they start using their GI Bill and they go to college. I think what I've heard the most is the civilian problems, that are, like a level 10 problem. For us, it's, it's nothing, right? Like, you forgot your headphones. Oh, great. Not a big deal. We've done X, Y, and Z. We've been to this mission, been to that mission, done this, done that. That's not a big deal. We can just push forward and adapt and overcome. So, what did you do specifically to kind of quell those emotions and just, basically transition into college?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing with that is the Marine Corps mentality of show up on time to where I need to be and do the work I'm told, right? And so a lot of that is distracting and is a good focus. And whenever I kind of had downtime is when, I might start to spiral a little bit. But honestly, the number one thing that probably got me to be comfortable at Harvard was its community. And, whether that be the veteran community here, but also some of the traditional students, I've been able to find some phenomenal clubs that have made me feel not only accepted, but appreciated for my perspective and background and things. So I'm a member of HUVO, but I'm also a member of the Harvard Alternative Investments Club, which focuses on investments outside of stocks or public investments. So, my interest with that is private equity, but I felt very welcomed in that community, and I've made other friends outside of that club as well. And sort of the more I dug in to the university, I live on campus, the more that I started to feel like I'm a member and I'm appreciated here.
Absolutely. Harvard has a club or a group for just about anyone. Last time I was in campus, on campus, I saw that there's a mariachi group, and they play, and I think they play at Felipe's, and I've been trying to catch them there. But yeah, they have the whole outfit and they have the Harvard colors, and it's pretty cool. So
yeah, let me know when they play. I'd love to go.
Yeah. But so yeah, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Now, as a Marine, we are probably like highly regarded for our PT. Do you participate in any activities, any groups, anything like that, as far as any kind of activity that you do that is a sport within the school?
Yeah, Greg, I'm going to be a little honest with you. I'm getting a little out of shape. I'm getting a little. No, I try to keep up with it. I work out every day. I think you really have to. I think everybody has to, but it's it's another subject. But yeah, being involved with the campus, the community that I found athletically that was the biggest interest to me was the rugby team, and so I played with them for 2 seasons. I recently just left the team, and I'm pursuing jiu-jitsu off campus. But yeah, being on the rugby team, the highlight for me was the community. Is if you're the type of individual that can get hit by someone twice your size and also hit someone twice your size, you tend to also be the individual who can talk about anything and not be mad. So it was a very inclusive, accepting community, and they loved veterans. They loved hearing our experiences, and some veterans love hitting people as well. So there's it's a great opportunity for that. That was phenomenal PT, and my biggest highlight being a part of the club was the 9 a.m. workout sessions, which so difficult. Making sure you're on time for a 9 a.m. PT session. But I love working out in a group, and maybe that's just because I'm so indoctrinated to doing so. I played sports in high school as well, but it was you're just all shooting the shit, talking about whatever, working out, doing some pre-workout, and it really changed my experience of being at Harvard.
Good. Yeah, I think that PT is definitely one of those things that I think that it should be necessary. I mean, it is necessary within your life, whether it's walking, running, whatever it is, you need some sort of physical activity in your life every day. And like to us, it's something we do every day. So getting out and then not having someone yelling at you for to go run, it unbalances you. At least that's my my belief. But can we talk a little bit about your jiu-jitsu? Are you starting out? Have you been doing this for a while? Where do you go?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have too much to say about it. I'm currently looking at some local dojos. My only prior experience was Marine Corps martial arts program, McMap.
Good old McMap.
Yeah, good old McMap. I got up to a brown belt, worked a little bit towards a black belt, rolled around with that. At DLI, was the most motivated climate or command climate I'd ever been in, which I think is very strange because we're all a bunch of nerds. We used to wrestle once or twice a week on top of this hill, which got all this wind. It was in the 5 a.m., super cold. And the battalion commander was like, all right, go fight, So that's kind of my experience. And I really enjoyed it. I think studying a martial art is very important for mental health as well. In addition to working out, I think everybody should study a martial art as well. And there's, quite a few out there. But my military experience with that was more, using your strength to overcome. There's some movements they teach us, but it's not to the extent that what I've heard a lot of these dojos are teaching you in proper techniques, making sure everybody's safe and really utilizing their strength or their movements the best they can. And so that seems to be something that would be of interest to me.
Yeah, man. I think that I heard it from John Danaher in one of his interviews that jiu-jitsu is like doing a Rubik's Cube that fights back, those solving a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
I love jiu-jitsu. And after this, I'll give you some good places that you can visit and drop in and see if you like it. And
yeah, please.
So,
are you have you been practicing jiu-jitsu for a while?
Yeah, I think about 7 years, I think.
And what, if you don't mind me asking, what belt are you at?
I'm a purple belt.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, over here in Daniel Gracie's.
Yeah.
Up in Philly. It's one of those. It's a humbling sport.
Yep.
It's once you think that you know something, some guy drops into the gym and just wrecks everybody, and you're like, oh yeah, never mind. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so much fun. And again, offline, I'll give you some resources for you, so that way you're not going in there cold.
Yeah.
But anyway, so all right, so you're in your second year. You got all these things going for you. What's after Harvard?
Yeah, so right now I've been pursuing a career in private equity. I've been thinking about it for a while. It's been on my mind for the last 2-3 years. I seem to like it, so I'm still pursuing that. So what that looks like is getting as many internships in the summer, sometimes during the school year as possible, networking, building experience to, ace these interviews. And then come senior year and last part of junior year, applying to as many firms as possible, aiming for the top ones, maybe settling in the middle and pursuing a career after that.
Yeah, for sure. And do you have anything specific that you want to go into? I know you said venture capital, right? So,
no, I was roasting venture capital a little bit, but that can be considered private equity.
Yeah, my bad. I gotta rephrase that question. Yeah, so you have your firms that you want to get into, and do you have anything that you want to do outside of that? So, for example, I know that you said that you wanted to buy a house. Were you ever thinking about exploring real estate, or just stay within your path?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about owning a home at a young age. I think a lot of people can do it, and I don't think it's something that we talk about enough on how to accomplish that. I definitely know a lot of people voice their opinions on the struggles involved with it, and there definitely are. But I definitely think it's achievable with or without the VA loan. And I have quite a few friends who have done it, who are inspirations to myself. So yeah, that's definitely an interest of mine. But I'll be pursuing a career in private equity. I don't know which industry that will entail. Right now, I'm industry indiscriminate or industry inclusive. We'll see if there's one in particular that catches my interest, or if there's one that is the only one I can get into. But I also actually, interesting enough, have a passion for foster care. So after a college and getting settled into my career, I'd like to start foster care shortly after. So my next steps in that process is getting involved with a Big Brother, Big Sister program. I think would be a nice preparation into understanding what sort of households these foster care kids are coming from, and what sort of skills do I need to acquire to be the best influence on them.
Yeah, that's awesome. We definitely need role models like you. I think that if I'm not mistaken, it's the Green Beret Project that offers something like that. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I am not, but I'll definitely look into that. So, I mean, yeah, it's called the Green Beret Project. I imagine that's involved with Green Berets.
So one of my buddies was never in the military, and he's just a finance guy. And to my understanding, what they do is they get these kids, and they function as a role model. So in his particular like area of expertise, he teaches these kids how to be how to have develop entrepreneurial skills, manage their time. What do you call it? Like how to write emails, resumes, etc. And these are like 17 to 18-year-old kids that are not from the best backgrounds. He asked me to speak to them about what to do whenever you get stopped by the police, right? How to act, how to do this, how to do that. So it's giving them skills that they may not have acquired through their life on their own. So and like I said, there's many people that like come in and like provide these skills, whether it's someone teaching them how to cook, someone teaching them how to invest their money, what's a IRA, what's a stock, etc. So it's pretty cool. So they can use you if you have any kind of like particular skill, which I'm sure that you would be an asset. So I'll definitely we can talk offline about that.
Yeah.
But all right, so that kind of wraps our whole interview. What I really like to ask at the end of the interview is, how do you pay it forward, right? Like, how would you help another veteran that was in a similar situation that you were, right? So somebody that does their enlistment and they want to go to college. So what would be the advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I kind of want to answer that question on two ways. One, how does an enlisted service member transition to college or even out? And number two, I also kind of want to take it back a little bit. What does a high schooler do looking at either get into the military, Marine Corps, or they don't want to go to college? They're thinking about it. So with a transitioning service member, I got two programs for you. Reach out to them as soon as possible. It's never too early. I don't think it's ever too late. Could be too late, but reach out to them as soon as possible. Number one, service to school. We talked about it a little bit. They'll pair you with a mentor. They will work with you specific to your needs, get you on the track that you need to be to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Number two, Warrior Scholar Project. That's going to help you prepare for school. Highly recommend that for anybody who's getting into an Ivy League or another elite institution. You might want to remember how to do your math homework a little bit. You might want to step back, humble yourself for a second. All right, how do I get in the academic mindset? How do I read? Right, reach out to them and they'll get you attached to their program. But yeah, going back to the high school thing, I chose a unique path, and I think that I want to encourage high schoolers who aren't the most inclined to go to college to also consider that there are other paths. And I'm not going to just state that the military or the Marine Corps is the best option. For a lot of people, it's not. I saw some people who definitely struggled in the Marine Corps. I imagine you can attest to that as well, Greg. But there are so many different options out there, whether that be Peace Corps or, looking into a trade skill, doing more blue collar work. And, that's something that really helped me in my life. Ultimately it led me to a university. That's just something I have to do in order to get into private equity. Also being at Harvard, really not complaining. But it's not the only career path for everybody.
Absolutely. I think it's good to have options and consider all those options, right? Like not just what everybody else is doing. You have to do what you're going to be good at or what you love. So what one of the last questions I have is a silly question. So what is your drink of choice, whether it's coffee, water, tea, whatever? Like, tell me, what can I find you drinking on the regular?
Yeah. So lately, and I've been saying this probably for the last 2 years, I've been really getting into Japanese whiskey. I couldn't tell you why. I'm a big fan of Japanese culture. Very fascinating to me. And so what do you know? They also make incredible whiskey. And so right now, I just recently bought a bottle of Hatozaki. I'm really excited to break into that. Definitely great to stick with a regular Suntory Toki or a Hibiki. But, there are definitely a few bottles that I'm still interested in learning about.
Wow. I did not know that they did that. That there was Japanese whiskey. What is the difference between sake and whiskey? I mean, is it brewed the same way as we brew whiskey, or what's the, what's the difference?
I'm not going to claim to be an expert in any of this. If someone is, reach out to me. I always love learning more. My understanding, sake is what's called a rice wine. How do you make something a wine as compared to something else? I can't really comment on that, but its fundamental ingredient is rice, which gives it its flavored. You have filtered and unfiltered sake. You're getting more of the rice influence or without, and there's a lot of flavored options within sake as well. They tend to be a little sweeter. You could be hot or cold. So there's some variations within that. Now, Japanese whiskey is mostly influenced now in today's day and age, not totally, but is mostly influenced by Scotch, by Scottish whiskeys. So the original Japanese whiskey makers went over to Scotland, studied the trade, and brought that concept back to Japan with Japanese twists. I can't describe to you what makes it completely different than Scotch, but they do tend to be more smoother flavors.
Wow. Well, next time I'm on campus, we got to have a glass for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that concludes the interview. Do you have anything else? Anything for the audience that you want to give out? Anything that you're doing personally that you want to make the audience know, or any organizations that you're a part of and you want to tell us about?
No, not too much. Probably the best thing that I can help anybody listening, if you are a transitioning service member or a transitioning service member, I'd love to talk to them. Huvo would love to talk to them. We have a lot of people who will just tell you your opportunities and how to achieve them. We can't guarantee anybody to get into Harvard. Sometimes I wish I could. I work with some close buddies of mine. I really, really wish I could just, be like, all right, take this guy. He's solid. But definitely know that you have a ton of opportunities available to you, not just university. And I know a lot of us would love to talk to you.
Great. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate your time. This has been the Harvard Veterans Alumni Organization podcast, and we'll see you next time. All right.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.